Have you ever been in a group where everything just clicks? It feels like magic. And then, have you been in one where it's just a constant, grinding struggle? Well, today we're diving deep into the secret life of groups, and we're going to look at them in a way you probably haven't before, as living, breathing organisms. Right? We've all been there. You've had that project team that was pure magic, and you've probably had that family dinner that was, well, pure chaos. It turns out there's a real predictable science behind it all, and it really just boils down to one powerful idea. And here it is, the big idea we're unpacking today, which comes from a field called Transactional Analysis, is that a group isn't just a collection of people. No, it's a living system. It has needs, it has a life cycle, and believe it or not, it kind of has a mind of its own. So let's jump into our first section, the secret life of groups. This is where we explore that idea, that a group isn't just a bunch of individuals doing their own thing. It's a single entity, and like any organism, it's just trying to survive and thrive. So what does that actually mean in plain English? Well, a group is just a mix of people, resources, and skills. But here's the key. Everyone involved, both inside and out, agrees to treat it like a single, independent thing. It's that shared belief, that shared story, that literally gives the group its life.
All right, section 2, from groping to grooving. So if this group is an organism, how does it grow up? Well, it turns out it follows 5 pretty distinct stages, a journey that takes it from birth all the way to peak performance.
It all starts with groping for some kind of direction. Then comes grasping, where people start fighting over control in how things should be done. That's usually followed by some griping, often aimed right at the leader. Now, it sounds messy, right? But only after all that can the team move to real grouping and finally grooving, which is that amazing state of high trust and efficiency we all want. It's a messy evolution, but it's a necessary one.
So let's look at that first stage. In the beginning, the groping stage, the group is basically an infant. Members feel totally uncertain. They're really dependent on the leader for everything, for direction, for safety. At this point, there's not a whole lot of awareness of each other as individuals.
And to really get this, we need to look at this super fascinating concept called the group imago. Basically, it's each person's own internal, totally subjective mental map of the group. And what's wild is that this map changes, it dramatically changes as the group gets old. And you can see that change so clearly right here. In that early grouping stage, a member's mental map is super simple. It's just me and the leader. Everybody else, they're just a blurry, undifferentiated background. But fast forward to the grouping stage, and that map becomes way more complex, way more accurate. You start to see your teammates as real, distinct people with their own skills and roles. Okay, on to section 3, the power of boundaries. Just like any living thing, a group needs skin, right? Something to protect it, to define where it ends and the rest of the world begins. Well, for a group, that skin is its boundaries. Now, a boundary isn't just a wall. That's the key. It's a dynamic zone. Sure, it separates the group from the outside world and gives it an identity, but it also has to be a place of contact and exchange. It's the place where the group actually meets the world. And if you get the boundaries wrong, the whole organism gets sick. If it's a bunker, too rigid, too closed off, the group just suffocates on its own stuff. But if it's a sieve, too open, no real definition, it just leaks everything. Focus, confidential information, its very identity. So the sweet spot isn't a wall or a sieve. The goal is a healthy, permeable boundary. Think of it like healthy skin. It needs to be strong enough to protect you, but flexible enough to let you interact with the world, to learn and to grow.
And when you get this right, the benefits are huge. A group with healthy boundaries can actually handle change. It can deal with internal disagreements. It empowers its members in a balanced way. And it can go out and successfully connect with new ideas and new people.
All right, section 4, a leader's adapted power. So if boundaries are the skin, what's the immune system? Well, that's leadership. The immune system is what keeps the organism healthy and on track. So what does a healthy one look like?
First things first, let's just bust a huge myth. A lot of us have this old school picture of a leader as some kind of all-powerful wizard who is supposed to be perfect and have all the answers. Not only is that totally unrealistic, it's actually really unhealthy for the group. The reality is, a healthy leader operates from what transactional analysis calls the adult state. What that means is they stay present in the here and now. They listen, I mean really listen, to challenges. And they have the strength and humility to say, you know what, you're right, when a confrontation is credible.
And this is exactly what happens when leadership power is out of whack. This quote is from a real CEO named Julie. On paper, she had all the authority in the world, but because her power wasn't structured right, it just left her feeling scattered, isolated, and totally unable to steer the organism.
See, effective leadership needs what's called adapted power. It's not just one thing. It's a balance of three different sources. You've got organizational power, which comes from your role. You've got personal power, from your own skills and relationships. And you have cultural power, which comes from the group's history and values. A leader who's weak in any one of these areas is just off balance. It's like a three-legged stool. If one leg is short, the whole thing falls over.
And the whole point of this kind of power isn't about top-down autocratic control. Not at all. It's all about having the flexibility to guide the group's growth, to adapt as people change and situations evolve. It's about being a steward, not a dictator. Which brings us to our last section, how to help groups thrive. We've seen how a group is a living thing with all these different parts. So how can we, as members, as leaders, become good stewards and actually help it thrive?
Well, it really comes down to three key actions. First, clarify your contracts. And this isn't just about what you'll do, it's about agreeing on the unwritten rules of how you'll cooperate. Second, strengthen your boundaries. Get crystal clear on everyone's roles to protect the group's identity. And third, and this is so important, foster what's called okayness. This is about creating real psychological safety, a space where every single person feels valued, making it safe to be vulnerable, to speak up, and to take creative risks.
And that brings us to the most important takeaway of all. This is the big one. You're not just a passenger in your group. Your thoughts, your actions, your relationships, they are the very cells that make up this living organism. You don't just influence it, you are it. So the final question I'll leave you with is for you. Think about your team at work, your family, your community. You are part of a living system. And knowing what you know now, what's one thing you can do, starting today, to help it grow?